everybody, welcome back to another video. So I know it's been quite a little while since I've posted, but recently I've gone back into the game and I have made a good power production so I can start making more tutorials and including power so I can further explain how they work. So as you can see, I'm going to do kind of a little bit of a rundown, and I'm going to go into something called fracking oil. So let's kind of start with the rundown first. So in order to kind of get the whole power thing started, all I did was a geothermal plant, and then I put it into a boiler to power a turbine. Then I used this turbine to make natural gas wells. These natural gas wells go into something called condensers, which then will give us water-free gas. Then it goes into a gas refinery, and then finally the gas will be refined and then put into these gas burners. Now this will make very hot water, which will power more turbines, and I did it the exact same way on both sides so I can get extra power. Then from this I moved on to an HV transformer, and then I put it into an HV pole in order to get enough power. As you can see, we were making enough power. Then I kind of sorted them into a few different things here. So we're going to move on to the next one. So we take the power from the turbines and then we use it to power a fracking oil plant. Now this will basically make us fracking oil, which if we use an atmospheric, I think it's a atmospheric condenser, or no, it's an atmospheric distillation plant. This will give us a few things, including residue, heavy oil, light oil, naphtha, gasoline, water-free gas, and crude oil. Now over here we have started another purple gold farm just for a little bit of more money. So you see our tree farm, which is making us our stuff. And then over here we kind of switched up a little bit. We got our lithium ore drill here, and then we take the sulfuric acid and lithium carbonate here, or in sodium carbonate, which is made from putting I think it's logs into an industrial firebox. Then it's just kind of steps there. We get lithium sulfate and we put it with sodium carbonate to make some lithium carbonate. We just take it over here and we combine it with some lithium, or we combine the lithium carbonate with some graphite iron electrodes and some plastic pellets, just to make a charged lithium battery with this machine right here, and therefore we can sell it for a hefty amount of money. But I will go over those in maybe a few different videos because they are kind of complicated to set up. Now without further ado, let's get into the fracking oil. Now let's get into the depths of it. So fracking oil, if we search it up, is made from an oil fracking tower. Now it uses sand, acetic acid, water, and steam to make 100 fracking oil. Now we could use sulfuric acid in less quantities in order to make the same thing. So I'm just only going to start with about one oil fracking tower. Now we can place it anywhere as long as you have the space. So let's kind of read some of the outputs that we have here. So we have sand, acetic acid or sulfuric acid, steam, as well as water. So recently in the new update, they had replaced the soil and sand extractors for the quarry. Now this will just basically very simple to use. All you do is just you select what you want and you power it with some water. And obviously we're going to pick sand. Then we're going to take our water pump and make sure not to cover the outputs and make sure not to cover the inputs either. We're going to simply connect that. Okay, and make sure your pipes are all connected. Okay, so these are the two outputs. Now all we need to do is power it. So we will take our power cable and it should start working. Just give it a little bit and it should start making sand. All we need is steam, water, and acetic acid left. So we're just going to go ahead and set up our water pumps. Then we're going to need some steam, so we're going to use our geothermal well setup, which is essentially just running water through 2 geothermal wells in order to make it hot enough to create steam, the boiler. And then we will kind of compact it just a little bit. We will use our boiler next. Okay. So once you've gotten your boiler, as you see, there are a few inputs and outputs here. I will explain those as soon as I place it. So this is just water that you will use to convert to steam. The steam output, and then the hot water you get from the geothermal well setup, and of course used water. We'll start with the used water one, and we will simply just use a liquid dump since it is water and does not create any extra pollution. Then we will place a water pump. Obviously you want to have enough space, which I don't think I had enough space to place it. We're just going to move it over just a tad bit. Take our liquid dump, make sure it's connected, and then our water pump again. So now shortly we should be getting hot water, and then we should be creating steam. So let's just go ahead and connect it when we start making our steam. And just like that, we now have water and steam available for it. So the next two things, or the last thing that we're going to do, is acetic acid. Now in order to get acetic acid, you will have to start with something called I think it is called the plastic refinery. So we will start with the plastic refinery. Now, in order to get enough acetic acid to fully run it, I normally use 2 of them. And then we will put our oil rigs and water. So what we will do is we will create an area for the oil rigs. So put about 7 or 8, and then our area for the water pumps, which one can go over here. I only use about 3 of them. So let's take a look at our inputs here. So we have water on this side, so water on the right side. So we may have to end up using a pipe intersection. All of the oil rigs, which will give us crude diesel. Oh, I'm correct about that. Crude oil, crude diesel. No, I think it's crude oil. Yeah. Okay, and then we're going to meet at the middle where we kind of connect here with a junction pipe. Now before I do any intersections, I like to connect them. Just like that. Okay. Then we will do a fluid pipe intersection. Fortunately, I kind of mismatched the colors, so don't get angry if I do that, because I do that a lot. Okay, now we just need to connect the oil rigs. Now once you power these on, you will get ethanol. Now in order to get acetic acid, you will have to put that ethanol inside of an oxidization plant, and we will meet right here. So let's go ahead and get most of these powered on. And just like that, we now have acetic acid. Okay. Now we're going to take the output of the acetic acid, and we're going to run it through these pipes over to the acetic acid input of the fracking oil tower. Now we have a lot of acetic acid already, but as it begins to make it, we will be using a lot of it up. Now I do highly recommend you use oxygen for the speed of it. So always use 2 plastic refineries and always use oxygen for the oxidization plant. And we're going to power our oil fracking tower. Now immediately it should start working because we have sand, acetic acid, steam, and water. And it also seems like these aren't powered, so we're not getting water. So just make sure you do that. We should now be getting water, and we should now be running. As you can see, we are now producing fracking oil. So what exactly do you do with this fracking oil? Because it kind of seems like you can't really use it in anything. You can't really use it in modular diesel engines. Where's this? Well, this is what you need. Now we're going to move it to behind it just for space purposes. But as you can see, it is called the atmospheric distillation plant. Now it will take that fracking oil and it will separate it into different components, which we will go over as soon as we connect it. Okay, and just like that, we should now have fracking oil, and it will take 200 of this. Now, let's kind of explain the outputs. So, the first one, of course, is residue. The next one is heavy oil, light oil, naphtha, gasoline, water-free gas, and crude oil. Now, it just kind of depends what you put in here. If you do put water in here, you get concentrated salt solution. You also get distilled water. But we will only be using heavy oil and light oil, so we can go ahead and store all these. What I like to do is I like to take some gold fluid silos, and I like to kind of layer them like this. And just like that, you have stored that. Now if we were to power this on, we would get light oil and heavy oil. So let's go ahead and power it on. Okay. Now, as you see, we get light oil and we get heavy oil. Now we do get more light oil than heavy oil. So next, you want to kind of build out. You want to put the heavy oil one above the light oil. You can go ahead and use your pipes to turn it, and then we can both bring them out here. Now after what we do here is we will take the heavy oil and we will put it into a industrial oil separator. Now it does require steam and it does require the heavy oil. So we'll go ahead and just pipe the heavy oil over to its input. See, make sure that it's connected. And there you go. Now we can obviously use our steam from this because it does create a lot of steam in order to power this. Okay, let's go ahead and use our... God, I keep having these horrible voice cracks. I'm so sorry. I have to be quiet. Let's say this again. We're going to use our fluid intersection just to connect them. Obviously, it seems that we kind of have some instant put pipes, so we'll just go ahead and connect those correctly. And now we should have steam. So when we power this on, we will get the machine oil, and we'll get the extra light oil, which we won't really use. But you can go ahead and store both of these in your silos, just like that. Then you have your machine oil. Next, we will take our light oil, and we will use 4 separate industrial oil separators because of how much that it makes alone. So we will go ahead and pipe it over to here. Just a little bit further away. Then we will use our junctions. Then we will place down our industrial oil separator, if I can find it. There it is. Okay. So it does kind of depend on where you put it, because you do need to use steam still. So we'll do 2 away from it. Alright, now we can pipe our steam. So we will use another junction. Now, unfortunately, we kind of ran into a problem because we need to connect. Let's go ahead and connect the light oil first. Now we can finally connect the steam. And just like that, we now have steam piping, and we have the light oil piping as well. Now let's go ahead and store our residue. Now if you really want to, you can store the residue in one silo, because it doesn't make that much. But it is totally up to you. But I do recommend doing that, so let's just do that first. Let's put our silos on where the residue is at, or the residue output's going to be at, and let's go ahead and connect them. Now we finally have the outputs, so we will take the outputs of crude oil, which when we put light oil into these, it will give us crude oil. So let's go ahead and give us another golden fluid silo. Okay, and then we are going to use our intersections for that one. Alright, and then we will finally be able to connect the outputs of our diesel. Okay, now we have our diesel. So next what we're going to do is we're going to put this diesel inside of a industrial diesel refinery. So this requires machine oil and the diesel, but it will take much more diesel as an input and it will output it much faster, with the only downside being that it uses machine oil. So what we're going to do, we're going to simply take our machine oil and we're going to pipe it over there. So go ahead and use your pipe intersections. For now, we should be set except for the diesel. And there we go. Now we are finally set to start making our refined diesel. So what you can do is you can go ahead and get your power line, and we may have to go ahead and get our separate thing here, but we are just going to simply use it for power for right now. As you can see, these are now all using their light oil to make diesel. As you can see, we're immediately making a lot of refined diesel. Now, we want to use this in a modular engine. So let's go ahead and set it up. What I normally do now is I take a diesel engine controller and I do about 8 crankshafts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then just do 1 air input and 1 engine exhaust. Make sure you have your fuel input. Then I do 6 cylinders. Just like that. Obviously, we've kind of gotten ahead of ourselves here, so we're just going to delete 1. Then you can finally add your generator. Then in the panel here, in the interact, you want to set your air to fuel ratio to 16. Which means it will be much more efficient in using fuel. So we can make a lot more of these if we wanted to. Then all you have to do is pipe your refined diesel. And immediately we should be making more power. Now what I like to do is we can go ahead and power it off really quick. Okay, do another diesel engine controller. We can do the same amount with the same cylinders. And I did not get ahead of myself, so we're going to build 1 more out, then add the air input and the engine exhaust on the 2 different ones. Then finally add your fuel inputs, separate your fuel line into 2 different lines using the junction. Then you would just want to go ahead and connect them and make sure that you set the new one that you made to 16 for the air to fuel ratio. And just like that, we should now be getting enough. And as you create more fuel, it will eventually go back into the pipe, and then you can use more of it. Since it is only using 0.8 liters per second, which is not bad at all if you were making something like this. As it is using it, we are gaining more refined diesel, which is very good. Same with this side as well. And there we go. Now we have 2 different generators. Now what I like to do in order to support the production is I like to take an HVT, I like to power it up, and I like to run it to the original line where it's connecting everything. And just like that, we now have our own self-sufficient thing. Now obviously we used one of our generators already, so we have another one, but since we have a lot more fuel being made, just wait for it to build up a little bit, and then you can finally use more and more engines. So just like that, we now have our kind of mid to late game power or fuel farm. Now if you want to sell it, that's totally fine, but I don't recommend selling it. So let's kind of do our revision before we close out this video. So what we just made was a quick and easy refined diesel farm from a fracking oil farm. So obviously it starts at the quarry where we make sand. Now this sand is piped into the oil fracking tower along with 3 different things. Acetic acid, which is made from an acetic acid farm using oil rigs and water to put into plastic refineries. And then finally makes ethanol to go into a oxidization plant, which makes acetic acid. Then steam made from geothermal wells, which creates an overabundance of it, so you can use it for the entire build. And then of course, water. This will then create your oil, fracking oil, which you can then put into the atmospheric distillation plant, which will give you a few different things. About 7 of them, which 6 of them are useful, which includes heavy oil, light oil, naphtha, gasoline, water-free gas, and crude oil. Now we will store everything except for the light oil and heavy oil. We take the heavy oil first and we put it into an industrial oil separator. This will give us light oil as well as some residue, but most importantly, it will give us machine oil. Then we take our light oil and we put them into 4 different industrial oil separators since we do get a lot of light oil. This will create diesel. Now we will take our machine oil that we got and plus the diesel, and we would put it inside of an industrial diesel refinery, I think it's called, and therefore you will get a lot of refined diesel. Now it'll build up in the pipes, and you will be able to store it, or you will be able to use it in more of these, which will make you a good amount of power. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. I know it's been a while since I've posted, about 5 months or so, but since I now have power, I can further in-depthly explain the power. So I hope you guys had a amazing tutorial session, of course, and I hope you have an even amazing day, an even amazing night. It's just, whatever. But that's all, and I will see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.